Yeah, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you've never seen any of my content, I am Coach Roundtree. On my channel, I post interview tips and career advice to help you elevate your game. This video is all about the case study interview. In 2025, companies are adding this new round to really make sure they hire the right candidate. In this video, I'm going to break down what is a case study interview, why is it used during the hiring process, what is the hiring manager looking for during your case interview, and I'm going to share my experience going through case study interviews. Before we dive in, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions and subscribe for more career tips. All right, let's dive in. Let's talk about what is a case study. I'm actually going to read you the textbook definition so that you know exactly what it means. A case study is a hiring technique used to assess a candidate's problem-solving skills and analytical abilities by presenting them with a real-world business scenario and asking them to analyze it and suggest solutions. It's common in consulting and other roles requiring strategic thinking. So to summarize all that, a case study is a real-world situation that you're given as part of the hiring process, and you're asked to develop a recommendation on how you would proceed and solve that problem using your problem-solving skills, critical thinking, strategic thinking. All that needs to come to life in your case study interview, and you're presenting that to a panel of people, so you definitely have to prepare to ace this interview. Now, you might be saying, Coach, okay, case study, I probably won't ever have to do one of these. Actually, in 2025, it's becoming a part of the playbook. So typically you would have, the process would be, first round is a phone screen with the recruiter. Second round would be the hiring manager. Is there a good vibe? Do I see that person being in the right person for that role? Then you have a panel interview. And then sometimes they'll add like a culture fit with the VP or director. And then you get the offer. Or they decide to move on with other candidates. But now they're adding this case study round. And it's interesting. It could be phone screen, hiring manager interview, case study. And then you get to the final round. Or it could be first round phone screen, hiring manager, panel interview, and then the last round is a case study. And so why are companies doing this in 2025? Because they can't make a bad hire. And they also can be very picky because the job market is tight. Companies are laying off workers. There's a lot of talent on the sidelines trying to get their next opportunity. And so to make sure they can hire the very best person, they're adding the case study interview. So here's what the hiring manager is looking for during a case study interview. Can you communicate your strategy thoughtfully? Do you have a framework to go from the problem to the solution? Are you analytical? Are you comfortable with data? Are you giving data-driven recommendations? That's the big part about a case study. You should be able to provide research and data-driven recommendations on how you would solve this problem. And your presentation skills. Can the hiring manager see you presenting to his boss or her boss? That's all the things that they're looking for when you're doing your case interview. So you have to make sure you lock in, and that when you do present it, you have the data, you can show your critical thinking, your strategic thinking, and your recommendations are very, very strong. Now, there are really three primary types of case studies. I want to break down each one. The first one is a business case. This is when a company will say, you know what, we're thinking about entering a new market. If you were the product marketing manager, what would be your approach to entering this new market for this new product? That's a business situation. So those are very specific to that company. Sometimes it may go out to another industry, but 9 times out of 10, it's going to be something related to their business. So make sure you understand the company, how they make money, what is their target customer, and their current strategy. You need to have that input. So when you get the case study, it's like, okay, bet, I already know, I've done my research on the company, so I can lock in. The second type is more of a market sizing. This is very common in the tech companies, the Magnificent Seven, where they may say, how many smartphones are sold in the US every day? And then you have to go through the framework of, okay, how many families are in the US? How many people? Okay, what is the adoption rate or the retention rate of iPhones in the US every day? You're gonna have to go through that and present your recommendation. So more of a marketing sizing. And the third one is more of a brain teasers. These are less common, but there used to be a time, especially in the tech industry, where they would ask, how many golf balls can fit in a school bus? It's more of these brain teasers, or how many refrigerators do you think are sold each day in the US? More of it's a combination of sizing, but it's really trying to see how you can show a framework, not necessarily give the right answer, but have a thought process that's methodical enough that if you have more information, you could get to that answer. So those are the three most common types of case studies. All right, now is story time. I want to share my experience going through case study interviews and just show what's different from when I was doing them back in the day and then what's new about 2025. So my first case study interview was actually in 2018. It was for a strategy manager role for a consulting agency. And so those case studies are very common when you're doing consulting. And so basically I went through the first round with the recruiter, hiring manager, then I did a panel, and then at the very end, I needed to also do a presentation, which was a case study. And so this agency was really focused on loyalty. So I was given a business case that was very specific to loyalty. Like, hey, evaluate this loyalty program. What do you think are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? So do a SWOT analysis and provide us with recommendations on how you think you can grow the loyalty program. And so I was given this a week before my final interview. And so I went in the lab, y'all. I went and did my research on this loyalty program. What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats? Put together my slide deck. It was about 5 slides. Had my last slide, which was the money slide, my recommendations. And I practiced. I started practicing over and over again because I wanted to land this job. It was critical for my family. And so I went through the process, got there, and I crushed it. I mean, I killed that presentation to the point where after I accepted the offer letter, the SVP, the big dog, she was like, no one else is presented like that, Marcus. We knew you were the guy before you left to fly back home. We knew we were going to have you on the team. And so what I did is I was locked in on my preparation. I knew it was a big moment. I enjoy public speaking, so I knew I was playing to my strength. But I really wanted to also make sure that my recommendation, that last slide, it was the money slide. My recommendations were things they had not thought of. They were based on data and research. I wanted them nodding in the room like, yo, ooh, if we did this would be dope. So that was 2018. My second case study interview was in 2020 from Meta. So I interviewed, at the time they were Facebook. I interviewed with Facebook, and it was for a product marketing manager role. So that's more of a go-to-market. So you have your product managers who build the technology. The product marketing manager sells it. He or she really drives how you're going to drive adoption in the marketplace. For that case study, it was similar. I had the first round with the recruiter, hiring manager, then I did a panel interview, and then the final round was the case. But that one was more so saying, hey, let's say you're going to launch a new product. You have X number of engineers. How would you structure your team to really launch this new product? And then what are some of the ways you would go about driving adoption? And I had to present that at a time via Zoom to this recruiter and the hiring manager, all the different panelists, and presented my recommendations. So it was very similar to my 2018 experience, but this one was more focused on like the structure and the people that I would be working with. Now in 2025, the game has really changed. The game has changed. So I want to give you some tips to really crush your 2025 case study interview. The first one, use AI. When I did those interviews back in 2018, case study interviews in 2018 and 2020, it took me at least a week to do my research. All the research I did on loyalty programs, I was going to searching on Google and finding all these articles, and I had to go through and analyze it, synthesize it, and then get the 2 or 3 big takeaways from it. I did all that. It took me a week just to get to the point where I had that information. Now, team, you can use AI to do your research element. I'm not saying use AI to do your whole storytelling, but for the most time consuming, you have to use AI. ChatGPT, Claude AI. I really love Claude AI. Amazon has a partnership with them, a stake in the company. Gemini is another one, Microsoft Copilot. But if I was given that, hey, we're going to launch a new loyalty program or evaluate this loyalty program, what would be some of the recommendations? The first thing I would do is use AI and say, hey, give me the top 5 loyalty programs. What are the strengths and weaknesses of each of the loyalty programs? Boom, I will get the information in minutes instead of a week. So the first step for your research component, use AI. And then from there, figure out your slide outline. You should have no more than 5 slides, 5 slides are going to be the ones you present. You typically have 10 to 15 minutes to present, so 2 minutes per slide. And then you might have things in the appendix in case you're getting asked other questions. But you need to have 5 slides for your case study interview. And then the first slide is going to be, what is the problem? What is the prompt that you were given? Then the next slide is going to be more of your research. Based on my research, here are some of the key things. Then you're probably going to have a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Then you're going to have that recommendation slide where you say, hey, here, based on all the information, here are my recommendations on how we could, for example, launch this loyalty program, or here's why the top performing loyalty programs are very successful. And then you might have another slide that just recaps everything that you have talked about in one place, more of a executive summary. But that's really the approach. But the most important thing is you got to practice, man. Once you get your slides, once you get you've used AI, you've done your research, you have to practice over and over and over again for at least 1 hour per day in the mirror, on Zoom. Really get those reps. Put on your full suit, what you're going to wear in the interview, and go and practice over and over again for at least 1 hour a day, so that the day of your case study, you're like, come on, let's go. You're so locked in because you put in the work. Team, if this was helpful, I need your help. Give this a thumbs up so YouTube knows this is valuable content. Make sure you subscribe so whenever I drop a new video, you're the first to know. And let me know in the comments how I can help you prepare for your case study interview. I'll see you next time.